conference room, perched on the 42nd floor, boasted floor-to-ceiling windows that framed a breathtaking panorama of the sprawling city below. Yet, Alexander Hartwell remained oblivious to the vibrant cityscape. He sat, the picture of weary authority, at the head of the long, austere glass table. A somber assembly of lawyers, accountants, and board members surrounded him, their faces etched with expressions ranging from strained sympathy to thinly veiled frustration. The late morning sun, usually a welcome presence, poured through the expansive windows, but for Alex, it might as well have been the dead of night, so profound was the despair that enveloped him. At 34, Alex was a shadow of his former self. His dark hair, once meticulously styled, was now carelessly swept back, and the sharp, classic features that had graced the covers of Business magazine during Hartwell Industries' golden era seemed dulled by fatigue and worry. He wore a charcoal gray suit, impeccably tailored, a white shirt, crisp and starched, and a muted gray tie, an ensemble chosen more out of ingrained habit than conscious thought. Beside him on the table sat his briefcase, crafted from expensive leather, a parting gift from his father before the old man's passing 3 years prior. That briefcase, once a symbol of success and ambition, now felt like a lead weight, a constant reminder of the impending loss that loomed over him. "Mr. Hartwell," the lead attorney began, his voice measured and grave, as he slid a document across the polished glass surface. "I understand this is an incredibly difficult moment, but we've exhausted every conceivable option. Bankruptcy filing, Chapter 11, is regrettably our only path forward. If you would simply sign here, we can initiate the process." Alex stared blankly at the papers, the words blurring before his eyes. Chapter 11. The legal execution of everything his father and grandfather had painstakingly built, brick by brick, deal by deal over generations. Hartwell Industries, a manufacturing stalwart for 3 generations, had specialized in precision components for the aerospace and medical equipment industries. They had provided livelihoods for over 2,000 employees across 5 states. They had been respected, stable, prosperous. And then, Alex had made a series of decisions that, in the harsh light of hindsight, resembled a catastrophic blend of overconfidence and misjudgment. He had expanded too rapidly, fueled by a relentless ambition to modernize and innovate. He'd recklessly taken on massive amounts of debt to upgrade facilities and invest in cutting-edge technology. He had staked the company's future on a lucrative government contract that had ultimately evaporated into thin air, a promise unfulfilled. And then, the market itself had shifted, the ground moving beneath their feet. Key clients had unexpectedly delayed or canceled orders, citing unforeseen economic headwinds. Suddenly, Hartwell Industries found itself drowning in a sea of obligations it could no longer meet. For the past 18 months, Alex had waged a desperate, uphill battle to salvage the company, a fight that had consumed him entirely. He had slashed his own salary down to nothing, sacrificing his personal well-being for the sake of the employees. He had sold his chic downtown apartment, his bachelor pad, and moved back into his childhood home, the old family residence, a place he couldn't bring himself to sell. Not yet. He'd worked relentlessly, pushing himself to the brink of exhaustion, clocking 100-hour weeks, desperately trying every strategy he could devise. But the cold, unyielding numbers told a grim story. They were out of options. They were out of time. "Sir," the attorney prompted gently, his voice laced with professional concern. Alex reached for the expensive pen someone had placed beside the document, a Mont Blanc, a symbol of success now mocking his failure. His hand was surprisingly steady, a fact that astonished him. He had expected to be trembling, but instead, he felt a profound numbness, a dull ache that seemed to emanate from the very core of his being. 2,000 people were about to lose their jobs, their livelihoods shattered. The Hartwell name, once synonymous with innovation and integrity, would become a byword for failure, a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms and business schools. His father's legacy, everything the man had stood for, would end with his son's signature on these damnable bankruptcy papers. He had just touched pen to paper, ready to seal the company's fate, when he heard it. A small voice, clear and bright as a bell, cut through the oppressive silence of the somber room. "Sir, you missed this number." Every head in the room swiveled towards the doorway, a collective expression of surprise and bewilderment on their faces. Standing in the doorway of the conference room was a little girl, no more than 5 years old, with bright blonde curls pulled up into two small, perky buns on either side of her head. She wore a simple pink dress with delicate white trim and small white shoes, an island of innocence and color in a sea of gray suits and grave faces. But what was truly startling, what made the scene so surreal, was that she was holding what appeared to be a financial spreadsheet, one of the dozens of documents that had been printed for today's fateful meeting. How did she get in here? Someone demanded, the question hanging in the air. Alex recognized her instantly. This was Charlotte, the daughter of his executive assistant, Margaret. Margaret was a dedicated single mother who had worked tirelessly for Hartwell Industries for 15 years, a loyal and invaluable member of the team. Occasionally, when childcare arrangements fell through, she would bring Charlotte to the office. The little girl would play quietly in Margaret's office, content with coloring books or picture books, rarely causing a disturbance. Alex had seen her a few times, always impressed by her politeness and well-behaved demeanor. But what was she doing here, in this high-stakes meeting, clutching a crucial financial document? Margaret appeared in the doorway behind her daughter, her face flushed with mortification. "Mr. Hartwell, I am so incredibly sorry. Charlotte, come back here right now. You know you're not supposed to be in here." "Wait," Alex said, raising a hand to forestall her. Something about the unwavering certainty in the child's voice had resonated with him, a spark of hope flickering in the darkness. He looked directly at Charlotte, who stood her ground with the kind of innocent fearlessness only a 5-year-old could possess. "Charlotte, what did you say about a number?" Charlotte, unfazed by the room full of adults, took a few tentative steps into the room, carefully navigating between the chairs with deliberate, small steps. She held up the spreadsheet, her small hand struggling to keep it steady. "This number here," she said, pointing with a tiny, insistent finger. "It's wrong. You added it wrong." One of the senior accountants made a dismissive sound, a low rumble of impatience. "Mr. Hartwell, with all due respect, we don't have time for—" "Show me," Alex said to Charlotte, cutting off the accountant's protest. He gestured to the chair beside him, and Charlotte eagerly clambered up onto it, kneeling so she could see over the imposing expanse of the table. She laid the spreadsheet flat and pointed to a specific column of numbers. "See, this says 78 million, but that's not right. If you add these numbers here," her finger traced slowly and deliberately down the column, "it should be 78,000. Someone put too many zeros." An eerie silence descended upon the room, a silence so profound that you could hear the faint hum of the building's ventilation system. Alex leaned forward, his focus narrowing, his heart beginning to pound in his chest as he examined the section of the spreadsheet Charlotte was indicating. It was a section detailing outstanding accounts receivable, the money that clients owed to Hartwell Industries for completed work. And if she was correct, if that figure really should be $78,000 instead of a staggering $78 million, then, "That's impossible," the lead accountant said, his voice rising in disbelief, as he stood up and moved quickly around the table, his eyes fixed on the spreadsheet. "We've checked these numbers a dozen times, rigorously," but Alex was already frantically pulling his laptop closer, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he opened the master spreadsheet that fed into all of their financial projections. He navigated to the accounts receivable ledger, his breath catching in his throat. And there it was, stark and undeniable. A data entry error, a simple human mistake, made 3 months ago, buried deep within the intricate web of the company's finances. One number transposed, thousands mistakenly rendered as millions. The error had then cascaded through every subsequent calculation, distorting their financial picture, making their receivables look massively inflated, and their cash flow appear far worse than it actually was. "Oh my God," Alex breathed, the words barely audible, a mixture of disbelief and dawning comprehension. He looked up at his team, his eyes wide with a mixture of hope and trepidation, hardly daring to believe what he was seeing. She's right. This number is wrong. It's been wrong for 3 months. Chaos erupted in the conference room. The accountants swarmed around the laptop, checking and rechecking the numbers, their initial skepticism giving way to stunned realization. The CFO was already on her phone, barking orders and pulling up backup files, her face a mask of intense concentration. Margaret stood frozen in the doorway, one hand pressed against her mouth, her eyes wide with shock and relief. As Charlotte sat calmly in the chair beside Alex, swinging her small legs back and forth, a picture of innocent satisfaction, looking pleased with herself. "How did you find this?" Alex asked her, his voice full of wonder and gratitude. Charlotte simply shrugged, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I saw the papers on Miss Margaret's desk. They had lots of numbers, and I like numbers. I was doing the addition in my head while I waited for Mommy to finish working, and that one didn't match. I told Mommy, but she said not to bother you because you were in an important meeting. But you came anyway," Alex said, a smile spreading across his face. "You looked sad through the window," Charlotte said simply, her eyes filled with childlike empathy. "And the number was wrong. I thought you should know." Over the next 2 hours, as the team worked feverishly to verify and recalculate everything, the full picture emerged. The error had originated with a new accounting software system they'd implemented months ago, a system that was supposed to streamline their financial processes but had instead introduced a critical flaw. A single incorrect entry, combined with a subtle formatting glitch, had created a devastating snowball effect, skewing their financial data and leading them down a path of near ruin. Their actual financial position, while still challenging, was nowhere near as catastrophic as they had believed. The truth was a beacon of hope in their desperate situation. "We're not out of the woods yet," the CFO told Alex, her voice hoarse with fatigue but filled with newfound determination. "We still need to restructure some debt and negotiate with creditors. But Mr. Hartwell, we're not bankrupt. Not even close. With the correct numbers, we can secure bridge financing. We can survive this." Alex felt like he could breathe for the first time in months, the crushing weight on his chest lifting. He looked around the conference room at his team, saw the relief and cautious hope dawning on their faces, and then his eyes found Charlotte. She had quietly gotten down from the chair and was back with her mother, holding Margaret's hand, a silent testament to their bond. "Charlotte," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Come here for a second, please." The little girl approached him, and Alex crouched down so he was at her eye level, mirroring the way he'd seen parents interact with their children, a gesture of respect and connection. "You just saved this company," he told her, his voice filled with genuine awe. "Do you know what that means? 2,000 people get to keep their jobs because you looked at some numbers and noticed something that all the adults in the room missed. You're a hero." Charlotte considered this seriously, her brow furrowed in thought. "Will Miss Margaret still have her job, too?" "Yes," Alex said, and he felt tears pricking at his eyes, the first tears he'd allowed himself to feel that day. "Your mom will definitely still have her job." "Good," Charlotte said, her face lighting up with relief. "She was worried about that. She didn't think I knew, but I heard her on the phone with Grandma last night. She was crying." Alex looked up at Margaret, saw the tears streaming down her face now, tears of relief and gratitude, and he understood. Margaret, like everyone else in the company, had been terrified about what bankruptcy would mean for her family, the prospect of unemployment looming like a dark cloud. And this remarkable child had somehow sensed that fear and had done something extraordinary about it. "Charlotte," Alex said, his voice softening, "how did you know how to add all those numbers? That's pretty complicated math for someone your age." "I just like numbers," Charlotte said, shrugging again. "They make sense. They always work the same way. My teacher says I'm good at math." "Your teacher is right," Alex said, smiling. "You're very good at math. Better than some of our accountants, apparently." That got a much-needed laugh from the room, breaking the palpable tension that had gripped them for so long. Charlotte beamed at the praise, her eyes sparkling with pride. Over the following weeks, as Hartwell Industries worked diligently to correct their financial records and restructure their obligations. Alex couldn't stop thinking about Charlotte. He did some discreet research and learned that she attended a local public school that was struggling with severe funding cuts, a common plight in their community. He also discovered that her teacher had been actively trying to get her into specialized gifted programs, recognizing her exceptional aptitude, but Margaret simply couldn't afford the additional costs associated with those programs, especially the transportation to schools that were located further away from their home. Alex, determined to repay Charlotte's extraordinary contribution, made some calls, leveraging his influence and resources. He established a scholarship fund anonymously at first that would cover Charlotte's education from kindergarten through college, including any specialized programs tailored for gifted students, ensuring that she would have every opportunity to reach her full potential. He also reached out to the local school district and arranged for significant funding for their math and science programs, designating Charlotte's school as the pilot site, hoping to inspire other young minds in the community. But more than that, he started to fundamentally rethink everything about how Hartwell Industries operated, the very core of their corporate culture. Charlotte's innocent observation hadn't just revealed a simple accounting error. It had exposed something far deeper and more troubling. The company had become so fixated on growth and relentless expansion, so obsessed with the pursuit of profits, that they had lost sight of the crucial details, the fundamentals that held everything together. They had implemented complex systems without adequately testing them, blindly trusting in technology. They had moved so fast, so relentlessly, that they had stopped diligently checking their work, assuming that everything was running smoothly. Alex called a company-wide meeting, gathering all employees in the main assembly hall. He stood before them and told the remarkable story of how a 5-year-old girl had saved them from the brink of bankruptcy by noticing something that all the highly paid experts had missed, a humbling experience for everyone involved. He spoke passionately about the critical importance of slowing down, of carefully checking assumptions, of actively listening to unexpected voices, regardless of their source. He instituted new, more stringent protocols for financial reporting, implementing multiple layers of verification to prevent future errors. He also intentionally cultivated a company culture where everyone, regardless of their position or seniority, was actively encouraged to speak up if they noticed something amiss, to challenge the status quo, to question assumptions, fostering a sense of shared responsibility and accountability. Sometimes, Alex told his employees, "The most important insights, the most valuable perspectives, come from the people we least expect." Charlotte didn't possess an MBA or decades of industry experience, but she had demonstrated a clear, uncluttered eye for detail and the courage to speak up when she saw something wrong, qualities that were far more valuable than any formal qualification. "That's what we need more of here," he emphasized. The company began to turn around, slowly but surely. With their true financial position finally clarified and accurately represented, they were able to secure the crucial bridge financing they needed to weather the storm. They renegotiated contracts with their clients, restructured their debt, and slowly began to rebuild their reputation and their financial stability. It wasn't an easy process, and there were still plenty of challenges and setbacks along the way, but they were no longer teetering on the edge of extinction. 6 months after Charlotte had walked into that fateful conference room, Alex invited Margaret and her daughter to his office, a gesture of gratitude and recognition. He had decorated the room with colorful balloons and had a specially made cake waiting for them, a festive atmosphere to celebrate their contribution. When they arrived, looking understandably confused, Alex ushered them in and had them sit down in the comfortable chairs by the window. "Charlotte," he said, his voice warm and sincere, "I wanted to tell you something important. Remember when you found that number mistake, that tiny little error that everyone else missed?" Charlotte nodded solemnly, her eyes wide and attentive. "Well, because you did that, because you had the courage to speak up, even though you were just a little girl and we were all busy adults focused on other things, you saved 2,000 jobs. You saved this company from going under. And I wanted to say thank you properly, to show you how much we appreciate your contribution." He handed her a beautifully decorated envelope. Inside was a certificate, elegantly printed and framed, officially naming Charlotte as an honorary financial consultant to Hartwell Industries, a whimsical but heartfelt gesture of gratitude. It was signed by Alex himself and by every member of the board of directors, a testament to the impact she had made. Charlotte's eyes widened as she examined the certificate, her face a mixture of surprise and delight. "What's a consultant?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. "It's someone who is very smart and helps solve problems," Alex explained, smiling. "And that's exactly what you did. You saw a problem that no one else could see, and you helped us fix it." He turned to Margaret, his expression softening with appreciation. "And I wanted to tell you something, too, Margaret. You've been with this company for 15 years. You've been loyal, hardworking, and dedicated, and you've raised a truly remarkable daughter. As of today, you are being promoted to Director of Operations, with a significant salary increase and full benefits, recognizing your invaluable contributions to the company." Margaret burst into tears, overcome with emotion. "Mr. Hartwell, I don't know what to say," she stammered, wiping away the tears with the back of her hand. "Just say yes," Alex said with a warm smile, his eyes twinkling. "We need good, dedicated people in leadership positions, people who understand what this company means to the families who depend on it for their livelihoods. You're one of those people, Margaret." As Margaret and Charlotte left his office that afternoon, the little girl clutching her framed certificate with obvious pride, Alex stood at his window and looked out over the sprawling city, the same view that had seemed so bleak just months before. He thought about how close they had come to disaster, how narrowly they had avoided financial ruin, and how one observant child had changed everything, altering the course of their destiny. His phone buzzed with a message from the CFO, a simple affirmation of their progress. "Q2 numbers are looking good. We're going to make it." Alex smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. They were going to make it, indeed. Not because of some brilliant strategic maneuver or an aggressive cost-cutting campaign, but because a 5-year-old girl had paid close attention to the details and had been brave enough to speak up when she noticed something was wrong, a testament to the power of observation and the importance of empowering every voice. Years later, when Charlotte was in high school and already taking advanced college-level mathematics courses, she would occasionally visit Hartwell Industries, her visits always a source of joy and inspiration for the employees. The company had become one of the most respected manufacturers in the country, known not just for the quality of their products, but also for their unwavering commitment to ethical business practices and their employee-focused corporate culture, a direct result of the lessons they had learned from Charlotte's intervention. Alex would often tell new employees the story of how the company had nearly failed and how they had been saved by the youngest consultant they had ever hired, a story that had become an integral part of the company's legend, a constant reminder that innovative solutions and critical insights could come from anywhere, if only you were willing to listen with an open mind. And Charlotte, who would eventually earn a PhD in applied mathematics and return to Hartwell Industries as their chief analytics officer, would always remember that pivotal morning when she had walked into a room full of stressed and somber-looking adults and had simply pointed out a number that was wrong, a number that had threatened to bring the entire company crashing down. She had been just a little girl who liked math and didn't want her mother to cry anymore, driven by a simple act of kindness and a desire to alleviate her mother's worries. She hadn't known that she was saving a company or changing the lives of thousands of people. She had simply known that the numbers didn't add up and that someone needed to know. That's the thing about truth, Alex would think whenever he recounted the story. It doesn't care about your age or your title or your experience. It is an objective reality, independent of human perception. And sometimes all it takes is one person brave enough to point it out, to speak truth to power, to challenge the prevailing narrative. Even when that person is only 5 years old and barely tall enough to see over the conference table. Charlotte had given him far more than just a corrected number that day. She had given him a profound lesson about humility, about the importance of listening to diverse perspectives, and about the unexpected places where wisdom and insight can be found. She had reminded him that the most complex problems sometimes have deceptively simple solutions, if only we are willing to open our eyes and see them, to challenge our assumptions and embrace new perspectives. And she had saved not just a company, but the lives and livelihoods of thousands of people who depended on it, a ripple effect of positive change that extended far beyond the walls of Hartwell Industries. All because she noticed a number was wrong and had the courage to say so. That's what heroes do, he realized. They show up, they pay attention, And they speak truth when it matters most, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. Sometimes they wear capes in comic books, and sometimes they wear pink dresses and have blonde curls and notice what all the highly trained experts have somehow missed. Alex never signed those bankruptcy papers. Instead, he had them framed and hung them in his office, alongside Charlotte's honorary certificate, a tangible reminder of their near disaster and their ultimate salvation. A constant reminder that we are never as far gone as we think, that hope can emerge from the most unexpected sources, and that sometimes the most important voice in the room belongs to the smallest person in it. That's the story of how a 5-year-old saved Hartwell Industries, a story that would be told and retold for generations to come, and how a CEO learned that true success isn't about having all the answers yourself, but about creating a culture where everyone feels empowered to contribute, where every voice matters, and where truth is valued above all else, regardless of where it comes from. Charlotte had said it best in her simple, direct way. The number was wrong. I thought you should know. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. Someone brave enough to point out what others have missed. Someone who cares enough to speak up even when it would be easier to stay quiet. Someone who is willing to challenge the status quo. That's the kind of company Alex built in the years that followed. A company that valued integrity, encouraged collaboration, and embraced innovation. And it all started with a little girl, a spreadsheet, and one wrong number that changed everything. A reminder that even the smallest actions can have the most profound impact, and that the greatest solutions often come from the most unexpected places.